Is your sound okay and everything?
Chicago lives up to its nickname, the Windy City. Winds of up to 90 miles an hour bring the less hardy to a standstill or use them like a Scotsman's curling stones.
Alley fight between Fitz and Combs. You both get to pick 3 all-time Sox and Cubs as part of your alley fight. My number 1 draft pick is Michael Barrett.
Michael Barrett, you're out of your mind.
Michael Barrett, do you see that right hook? Ask AJ Pierzynski if he wants to get hit with that right hook again.
You can ask AJ Pierzynski that.
I will.
That's such a podcast question.
Shut up. Go to Rizzo. It's in time. And the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. Uribe has it. He throws. Out! A White Sox winner and a World Championship.
And what is going on, Windy City Sports Talk fans? It's your boy, Brandon Combs, along with my guy, Ryan Fitzgibbons. What's going on, Fitzy?
Good evening, Combs. Not much. Week in baseball. You lost some money on the fights. I lost some money on the Derby.
Yeah.
Fun anyway. I don't know who would have picked that horse.
You know what? I lost a bunch of money on the Derby as well. We went in, we put in a bunch of different bets. I had a few different horses to win. I had to bet on my horse because the name alone, I know nothing about horse racing. Full disclosure, I know nothing about horses. The horse's name was Tap It Twice. I had to bet on Tap It Twice. I mean, look, if there is any motto I've lived by in my life, it's been Tap It Twice. I mean, I've got 6 kids and 2 ex-wives. I mean, that has been the Combs' motto.
You said it. You opened the door.
I did. and so I went for it with Tap It Twice. I went for it with a couple other ones. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, and afterwards, I was like, I don't know how I didn't bet on this damn horse. I said, there wasn't a whole lot jumping out at you with that horse, though. I went. Sometimes I'll go with an exacta box birthdays. I went with 4 horses, and then Nicole went with Mischievous Cyclone. I think it was the horse that came in for a scratched horse. Yeah.
Never really was up there, but the 2 horse was up there. The 6 horse, which was a good horse, was up there. Oh, and we had the 17 horse. So 2, 4, 6, 17.
Yeah.
I don't think the 17 ever got up there. That was the Japanese horse that a lot.
Yeah, I put some money down on the number 1 horse too. And coming around that final turn, he was making a move, and I'm screaming and like, let's go. And then he just fell behind. But we had in our exacta box, we did as a group. We had a group of friends. We went up to the OTB in Mokina, and we put down an exacta box, and we hit 4 out of the 5 horses to finish. Unfortunately, the one we didn't put in there was number 8. So we would have walked out with a ton of money. It would have been like a $50,000 payout had we put just number 8 in there, but we didn't.
Yeah,
but we didn't.
Perfecta was what, $15K. If we would have hit our exacta, we did a $4 exacta. The $2 exacta paid out $330. Ours probably would have paid out a little bit more than that. We probably would have won $700-800 if it came in. Our horses were up there. They all got. You want your horse to have a good run. You know what I mean? For the horses you want them to have a good run. They all had a good run. That 8 had the perfect run. If you had to draw out a race, it would be for that 8 horse where the pace is really quickly, and he had a perfect run, and he could come on late when the other horses start slowing down or start losing. Yeah, so that's what I always look at. You look at the fractions in a horse race.
And how do you pronounce that horse's name? Is it really Maga?
Is it?
I believe it is, and I
thought it was Mage.
I don't know. I thought it was when the announcer said it. It sounded like Maga.
Did you not listen to the broadcast? Were you like in a loud place or?
Oh yeah, we were in a loud place.
I think it was Mage.
Okay.
I can't be. Maybe they were pronouncing it wrong. It's happened before.
It was just to me. I thought it was funny when I saw it, and I was like, God, it sounds like it's MAGA. I said, man, all these people. There was probably about 40 people there with "fuck Joe Biden" shirts on. I was like, how pissed are these people that they didn't bet this horse?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, they could have been mispronouncing it, but I don't think so. I think they had it right, and yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good race, though. I mean, I think pretty exciting. You know, when a horse like that wins, it wasn't 80-1 like last year, but
Yeah.
what was it? 15-1? Did it go off at?
Yeah, I think it was 15-1. It had been the last couple of years too. It was like I think 4 years straight or something like that, or 25-1 or more at won the race. And I mean, so I put a couple in there on a couple of different horses. I think I was down about $200, and then then the UFC fight happened, and I had like luckily with the Lopez fight, my parlay got wiped out, but it was the first fight of the main card, and I felt like he got screwed, man. I felt he had the I can't remember Kovalev. I can't pronounce his name, but he had him in 4 or 5 submission holds in the first and third round alone. I mean, damn near finished their damn fight in the first round twice. Dominated in the third round, and then a unanimous decision for the Russian. And I was like, look, I know this guy is undefeated, and this guy only took the fight on 4 days notice, and he's not ranked, and the Russian is ranked. But I mean, this does not look good for the sport. This is the reason why people have such a big problem with boxing, because sometimes you get these decisions that make it look like, I don't know. There was a lot of money on this kid. In the fight. If you watch the fight back, I don't know anybody that could look at that fight. Maybe you could say 2-1 for the Russian kid. But I mean, 2 of the 3 judges had 30-27. And I was like, there's just no way.
Did you watch do you know Patty Pimbleton?
Yeah.
Pimblett, is it?
Pimblett. Yeah, Patty Pimblett. He's one of my got Patty the Batty.
Yeah, but he got beat. I mean, he did. He got beat and he won the fight. And even Joe Rogan was like Joe Rogan gave a look like, are you serious?
Right.
He did not win that fight.
Yeah. I did not agree with that decision at all. I also didn't like the way they ended the UFC. I know the UFC is in talks about buying WWE. One of their partners is buying the WWE or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have the main event, and in which, look, Aljamain Sterling did his thing. He is a beast. I do like Sugar Sean O'Malley. I really do. But to bring him into the ring during the guys' post-fight press conference, so that they can have a face-off and talk to one another prior to it's just so WWE-ish. And that was one of the big reasons why I love the UFC, is because they don't do this gimmick stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's all like who was it? Conor McGregor, when he went after his opponent's bus, right, and was throwing chairs through it and was pissed off, right? Like that
didn't get arrested there,
right? And that was fun, and that. But this stuff, it was just like, yeah, I mean, it was just staged, and it just it had too much of a WWE feel to me, and I didn't really care for it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't go that way, and I don't know if something's changed for UFC, but and I know you're looking at Jeremiah's right now. I don't know if something changed at the UFC, but this is always something. But I think this is how the judges are at ringside or at cage side.
Yeah,
that's how they do it in boxing. They're at ringside, and they don't do what we used to call back in the day when boxing was on the best boxing network ever, HBO.
Right.
It just mysteriously just went away. I don't know if they weren't making money anymore or what.
Well, the thing that happened with HBO was they got caught with the Vegas thing. They got caught with there was a couple of fixed fights. And that became a problem.
I did not know that. Yeah, I did not know that. Maybe I should have do it. But anyway, they would have CompuBox numbers. So CompuBox was a bunch of people looking at TV. Mm-hmm. They would look at the TV and they could see different views. They can even go back. Like, I've always thought that one of the judges should be some form of CompuBox. Yeah. Now, I get it. They want guys to be there. They want people to be there to watch the fight. so they can hear the impact of the hits and feel the impacts of the hits to see who's hitting harder. Because sometimes across the TV that doesn't come across. You're such a child, and it doesn't come across. But but you still, if you have one guy doing the compy box and then two judges there, I think they could get a lot of stuff better.
Yeah.
A lot of judgments better, because there's been a lot of fights where it was just unbelievable.
I think what they've got to do is, I really honestly believe that they should have former fighters judging the fights. I really do believe this. And the reason is just there is too much. And I've talked about this before with Vegas and sports, and how I believe Vegas has a hand in sports, but in more than any other sport, it's been boxing. And in more than any other sport, if you can get 3 judges to maybe swing a decision, to maybe put because
I think the only problem there is collusion, because a lot of these fighters know each other, and collusion plus CTE.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's just, I mean, Fitz on the left, does that mean Combs is doing Fitz gibberish tonight and Raya is going to talk about the receiver from TCU all night? Look, Fitz is on the left because he got here first. He created the stream tonight because I was running a little bit behind, doing some yard work, and so Fitz took it by the balls and got it running for us. And I see Johnny Torres is in the chat. What's going on, Johnny? Haven't been out to bags in a while, man. All the softball and everything else going on, I just have not had a chance to get out to some bags. But I promise I'm coming back soon to get my ass kicked and just give you $20. So I promise I will be back. But no, I think that there's just a problem in the fight world. And when they went to, like I said, the whole bringing Sean O'Malley, I keep want to say Shane, bringing Sean O'Malley into the ring to talk with Aljamain Sterling and do the like the face to face or whatever in the middle of the ring. And then even then, because it got heated, right? Like they started yelling at one another. They started talking shit. He called him a piece of, Aljamain Sterling called Sean O'Malley a piece of shit, told him get out of his octagon and all this. I get it. But at that point, then it just feels staged. Like that was the best part about the UFC is none of it felt scripted. None of it felt like it was forced animosity. And when you do this, like, and I used to be a WWE fan. I used to watch all the time. My oldest son, he loves the WWE. Like I don't want the UFC to go that route. And if they continue to go that route, I think they're going to lose a lot of viewers.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so too. I think fighting is just different than any other sport. Fighters, they just have a different instinct, and you can't start talking shit. You can't start doing that with fighters. Like it just doesn't translate. I don't think it works. Like they tried to have Stephen A. Smith on the UFC. He did like 1 or 2 broadcasts and it just didn't work because his shit talking just doesn't work in fighting where 2 people are sitting in a ring where one could die or one could get severely injured and never fight again. Or whatever. I mean, you're getting into a ring with killers, basically.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. It's not like basketball where you can talk shit. Maybe you're right sometimes. Who cares? And it's a lot of bluster, and you're just trying to, get more views. You're clickbaiting, basically. Yeah. I don't mind Stephen A. Smith or anything. I really don't have a position either way on him. But in the fight world, it didn't work. I don't know if this will work. To your point.
Yeah, look, I mean, the fight, like boxing was at its moment, like you said, when it was on HBO, when it was Max Kellerman and Tony Atlas, talking about fighting, like 2 of the greatest. Like I'm not a big Max Kellerman guy. Like I don't care for a lot of the stuff that he does. I think he reminds me. It's funny. I don't mean this in a bad way. So if you're listening, I apologize, Buck. But he reminds me a lot of Buck. He's very clickbaity, right?
Yeah.
So like. I don't really care for some of the stuff that he does on some of his network shows, but he's one of the most brilliant boxing minds I've ever listened to when he's talking about boxing.
Yeah, and they also had great boxers in their minds, like Lennox Lewis. They had Jones, Roy Jones Jr. They even back in the day, I thought he wasn't bad. George Foreman for years. I grew up listening to George Foreman, so. Yeah, I mean, it was sad to see that broadcast go, but there's only a certain way you can do the whole fight game thing, and I think UFC's done really well. I don't know.
Yeah, don't
know what Dana White would say about this, but yeah.
Yeah, I would like to talk to Dana because Dana White was in the ring when it happened, and Dana White, was separating the two fighters, and he had a smile on his face the whole time, like he normally does, even at the weigh-ins when this stuff happens, when they do the face-to-face at the that to me, people can say, well, that part is scripted too. Well, yes, but that part's supposed to be scripted because that's a press conference. That's a presser. You know what I mean? Like that's not a at the end of a fight after a guy just retained his title going into the ring and starting to talk shit. You know what I mean?
This seems scripted. The
a lot of yard work. I actually, I mean, look, I did, man. I'm actually really tired. I did do a lot of yard work today.
Thanks for making the podcast, buddy.
Jeremiah again says the Amanda Nunes fight where the referee basically forced her to armbar her opponent because he wouldn't stop it. I remember that fight, and look, that's just bad. That was a bad referee. There's been a lot of bad referee jobs. There's been some, times where it gets stopped too quick. There's been times where they've let it go for an entire fight, and then the favorite in the third round all of a sudden gets a hold on one of these guys where it looks like they may or may not get out of it, and then they stop it real quick, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? So there is a lot of talk about Vegas being involved, and I just hope UFC can find their way out of it. I hope they don't do again what they did last night. That's all.
I mean, yeah, you never know. I mean, I think if it's going that way, it's going that way, especially if there's new owners or new money in there when financials get involved, especially in this country.
Yeah.
It always bends that way.
Wait, this country's predicated around money?
More and more. It seems
what?
Like every day, man. Yeah.
No way. Fuck's sake. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to use that guy's sound clip over here so bad. I really do. That guy's great on TikTok. But anyway, the White Sox, man. The White Sox, baseball, Windy City. I mean, we've had a lot of good baseball this week. The Cubs had a rough go in Washington, but then did come back and take 2 out of 3, almost swept Miami today, which we'll talk about later. But the White Sox. So last Sunday we talked about it. We were really skeptical about whether or not that comeback on last Sunday could turn around their season, or were they just destined to be the team that they were. But then they come and take 2 out of 3 against Minnesota. They take 2 out of 3 against Cincinnati. I think yesterday you can kind of, put on the, maybe there was a lot of concern for Eloy Jimenez. Maybe they just weren't in the game or whatever you want to put it on. They probably should have swept Cincinnati, but I mean, what did they finish? I turned it off. They were up 17-4 today. So I don't know what the final was.
17-4, yeah.
Yeah. So
2 touchdowns and a field goal.
Have they turned a corner?
No.
No,
they haven't. You're just not going to be that bad for that long. You're never as bad as you are on a 10-game losing streak, unless maybe you're Oakland, and you're never as good as you are when you win a couple of series. And they should have probably swept both series. You bring in Ronaldo Lopez again against the Twins in that game 3 against Byron Buxton, and Buxton's going to hit a home run. And that's what he does to tie the game. They go to 12 innings, they lose. And that new rule, you can say what you want about it, but it skews towards the visiting team. It does. But yeah, I mean, and that was like, why are you bringing in Ronaldo Lopez? Like, why? He's obviously, now the guy could be one of the best closers in the league one day. He definitely has the talent to do it. And I even think he has the temperament, but he's just not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a 4-game series Monday through Thursday against Kansas City before they do have to, they'll come back home to play Houston and then Cleveland.
Yeah.
Before they do, I mean, then they get a little low on the schedule again. Kansas City, Cleveland, and Detroit, and even then again, the LA Angels, they're just not world beaters and they don't intimidate anybody before the schedule starts to get tough again. So I'm not so sure that they've turned a corner, like you said, but I think that they are they are a team that is much better than what they've played so far in the season. Obviously, they are a team that can still make a run, especially in this division. I mean, the Minnesota Twins showed in this 3-game series this past week that they're not the best team in this division. They've showed that this division is up for grabs, very much so. And I do believe it's going to be a 2-team race. I mean, I don't think Cleveland's going to be as good as they've been. The Sox got to get healthy, though, man. Eloy Jimenez,
goes on an 8-game hitting streak, has 3 home runs. He's starting to hit the ball.
And his appendix bursts. Like, you can't make this shit up.
You can't. You can't.
And then not only that, but Jake Berger leading the team in home runs, and then all of a sudden he's got a bad oblique.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
You finally get Tim Anderson back. Yeah.
Jeremiah, even Ronaldo can't give up a 13-run home run. He could try.
He tried to. Yeah, he tried to.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's I mean, everything is on the table. One guy has cancer. I mean, a great story what a great story that's going to be if he comes back this quick. I can't believe it. The Sox used to have a pitcher, Scott Radinsky, who had this, I think he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, as you take a drink. And it was like 1.5 years he was out. So I don't know. I mean, I know that the treatments that they have now have come a far way, but I mean, really to only miss a couple of months, he's already, you had the stats. He's already pitched a game in the minors.
Yeah.
Johnny Torres says both of you do not look normal today. Are you both sober? Why don't I look normal? I got a black t-shirt.
I think it's because you're on the left and I'm on the right. I don't know. I think it's confusing people. I don't know what here. Look here. Here we go. There you go. There you go, people.
Yeah. Are you more left brain? I'm more right brain, I guess.
I really don't like. I have no clue what side of that. I'd be shocked if I there was evidence brought to me that I had a brain. I'd be more shocked by that than to find out whether or not I'm right or left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeremiah Murray says, when you're a bad team, you are the ones that are the easy part of people's schedules. That's a very true statement, but just like the Cincinnati Reds are a much worse team than the Chicago White Sox.
That's pretty evident. Yeah.
The Kansas City Royals are a worse team than the Chicago White Sox. The Detroit Tigers are a worse team than the Chicago White Sox, even though they did take 2 out of 3 from St. Louis Cardinals this weekend. We'll talk about that.
Everybody's taking 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals. What the hell is going on there?
Did you see what they did with Contreras?
No.
They have relieved him of his catching duties in St. Louis. He will now be they called up a catcher from AAA. They are going to run a 2-man system, and they said for the foreseeable future, Wilson Contreras will be either the DH or a fill-in in the outfield.
What is this, the 1985 White Sox when they put Carlton Fisk out in right field? What is happening?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Michelle says, I'm not going to the game tomorrow.
Are we going to fight on here?
Oh, no, because she loves Wilson Contreras. She was a Wilson Contreras fan when he was a thing. He's going to play. He's just not going to be squatting behind the plate, which you won't get to look at his ass all night long. That's all.
It could be Johnny Torres. That's
Brandon must be locked in this. I am not. I'm not typing. My hands aren't on the keyboard. I am definitely not.
A second.
Yeah, I'm going to the game tomorrow. That's how you know right there I'm not logged in as Michelle, because instead I'm not going to the game. I'm going to the game tomorrow. I am absolutely going to the game tomorrow. Amy Lawless chimes in. What's going on, Amy? Thanks for joining the show. Thanks for watching. Good friend of mine. She's married to my one of my best friends, Ryan Lawless. So thank you guys for watching. And she says could be worse. She could be a Yankees fan. I could be a Yankees fan. That would never happen though. Yeah. At least if I was a Yankees fan, I'd have 27 world championships.
I have an uncle who's a Yankees fan. He's from Chicago. I mean, he's also sort of a Cubs fan. Why would you be a Yankees fan? The guy,
because they win.
I get it. I get that. but what your teams have sucked forever. Well, maybe, yeah. I mean, I did do a Fitz gibberish a couple weeks ago saying that people would leave their team, so maybe it is good. But why the Yankees? They don't need any more fans. They don't need any more championships. It's enough already.
Yeah,
and after a while, it's like, does it even matter if they win again? Like
that organization, though. I mean, look, when you sit down and you think about, people will talk about the Yankees all day long. They'll be, I hate the Yankees and blah blah. They win, blah blah blah. They do this, they do that. How stoked would you be if you opened up a box of old cards and you found a Mickey Mantle or a Lou Gehrig or a Babe Ruth? Or, you know what I mean? And the list goes on and on and on of Yankees that were just, I mean, absolutely phenomenal. They've been a model organization. Well, they were a model organization for the better part of the first century of baseball. You know, lately they've been a team that tries to spend a ton of money and just overpay. They just spend all the money in the wrong spots.
And Babe Ruth.
I know.
And they actually won a World Series with both of them. It's not like the Bears had Gale Sayers and Butkus that they never even made it to the fucking playoffs.
We all hate them.
The best players in the league.
Yeah, it's that old saying, right? They hate us because they ain't us. And we hate them because we're not them. Like, how happy would we be if the Cubs had 27 world championships, if the White Sox had 27, if the White Sox had a history of players like Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, like in the list, like I said, the list goes on and on and on. Derek Jeter, you know, you could keep going and going of class acts and just you know, all-time names in the game that have played for that organization. Look, I don't like him either.
I get excited again after like the 6th championship. Like I remember Derek Jeter and Joe Torre after they lost to the Diamondbacks right after 9/11. Great, one of the best series ever.
Yes,
best World Series ever. One of the best 7-game series ever. And they were just shocked they lost. They were totally shocked they lost. They sat in the dugout for like minutes watching the Diamondbacks go nuts, and they were shocked they lost.
I'd settle for a 27 playoff appearance, says Jeremiah Murray. And that's the thing.
Because
you know what?
The Sox don't have it between them.
Right. And Fitz, you asked a question, you know, how could you get excited after the 5th or 6th championship? You know what? I have no clue. But I'd like to find out.
Yeah,
I would love to find out what it's like to be a fan of a team that is consistently good, that is consistently trying to win, that is consistently, you know, the talk of being one of the best teams in the league, that is consistently spending money where to the point to where they don't care about the luxury tax threshold. Like, I would love to have one of, but we're in Chicago. We don't have teams like that. We've got teams that treat us like we are the Tampa Bay Rays, the Oakland A's, the Montreal Expos. We have those, but you know what? I just named 3 teams that are also, you know, pretty much consistently, you know, relevant. So
yeah, I mean, really, the Tampa Bay, you know, Rays, who have no payroll, are in that juice box over there in Tampa, and just, I mean, not even a good baseball town. And they have a dynamic team, and their scouting is unbelievable.
I agree with Jeremiah Murray.
I want to be sick of parades. I just think after a while, like, well, after your team does win a championship, or you as a player, it's almost like, what is it, Jerry West? Did you watch, what's it called? I think Winning Time. The Lakers series on HBO. If you haven't checked that out,
I haven't seen that one.
You got to check it out. It's one of the best. There isn't a lot of sports series, like TV series about sports, but it's about the rise of the Lakers.
Okay.
Back in the, you know, early 80s, late 70s. And Jerry West finally wins. He lost for years against the Celtics, finally wins. And it's like, oh, is this it? Is this it?
Yeah.
You know?
And that's like I do want to be a part of something. Like I've said before, like, the first Cubs World Series, I can't wait for the next one, not because the Cubs are going to be in the World Series or winning another championship. Yeah, that's going to be great, but I'll actually be able to enjoy this one. And now not only will I actually be able to enjoy it, but this time I live in Chicago. So I'll actually be able to experience it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was living in Vermont in 2016 on my couch watching this series, so stressed out that like 2 hours before game 7, I had the TV on the pregame show and I'm pacing back and forth in my living room. I couldn't sit down, dude. Like it was so brutal. I was extremely excited when they won. I cried tears of joy. I was extremely happy that they won. I just couldn't really enjoy it. You know what I mean? But that's what our teams have done to us.
Yeah, I know. No, I remember that White Sox season. Part of that season,
Nobody remembers that White Sox season.
Everybody thought it was fake, though, if you remember, and I kind of fed into that. But finally, by the end of the season, there was one play that I always remember. This was 2 years after Bartman. Posednik goes into its big game against Cleveland. Cleveland comes roaring back to almost take the division, and it's against Cleveland. Posednik, who wasn't really a great left fielder, he could run, but he wasn't really that great. He just didn't have the instincts. He goes into the crowd and catches the ball, and then just hits one of the fans in the face with it. It was just like, that team was unflappable. That's when I started to think, and they still are. Like, I'll still see plays like they had the Burley play where he flips it under his legs. It happened like 12 years ago, and that team was just unflappable. Those players were unflappable, and it's just not what you see a lot. And then they didn't win. They didn't get back to the playoffs till 2008. They should have made it in 2006. That might have been a better team than the 2005 team, believe it or not. The only difference was Burley had a down year. But anyway,
I mean, but that's what teams do to fan bases, though, when they're not consistently win. The Red Sox in 2004 had not won it since 1918. They were tired of hearing the chants from the Yankee fans, right? They would always chant 1918 every time they walked into Yankee Stadium. And when the Red Sox went down 3-0, all of my friends up in New England were like, "Oh my God, they're doing it to us again." And I told them, relax. Remember earlier in the season, they had won 9 straight games to start the season off of the New York Yankees. Of the 17 games that they played, they won the first 9. I said, you've won 9 in a row against the Yankees. You could do it again. And then they won game 4, and then they won game 5, and then game 6, and you knew they were just going to win game 7. And sometimes you have to do that as a fan. And I didn't realize until 2016 what that had meant. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize, like, oh, now I know why they couldn't stop. Now I know why they were panicking on every pitch in every game, and they thought they were, because I was doing the same thing. When the Cubs went down 3-1, I thought we were dead in the water.
There was a game, or a playoff game for the Cubs. I think it was 2008. Ted Lilly was on the mound, and the Cubs fans were eerily quiet. Like, they had a really good season that season. I think Lou Piniella was the manager, and the Cubs fans were just really nervous, like you said. And I think the fan base was able to enjoy 2016 a little bit more because they had the Bartman thing happen. They had 08 when Ted Lilly throws the glove on the mound, which I still have never seen a pitcher do. I've never seen a pitcher do since or before ever in a playoff game. Maybe something sort of like that, but I've never seen somebody self-destruct like that. And they got swept that year. They got swept the next year. But yeah, I mean, I think that does happen to fan bases, and maybe that leaks into the team. That's why some of that crazy stuff happened to the Cubs and to the Red Sox. I remember when Pedro Martinez, Grady Little, lost his job because of it. He had Pedro Martinez out there a little bit too long. Aaron Boone hits not Brett Boone, the deep voice Brett Boone, but Aaron Boone hits a home run to win the game. That was nuts. That was crazy. But I think fan bases, maybe that leaches into the players a little bit, or the team. It seems to, because crazy stuff like that happens.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's really tough to explain. I mean, unless you're a big sports fan, like it's funny to me because I had this conversation with Michelle last week. Because for me, I'm a big sports fan. You're a big sports fan, right? We're watching, it was called Bricks and Ivy. They were showing like the history of Wrigley Field, and I'm watching on the Marquee Network. And they show a picture of Wrigley Field. I mean, middle of July, you know, the grass is green as can be. The sunset in the back. I'm like, God, that is the most beautiful scene. And she's like, really? And I'm like, you don't think that that's beautiful? And she's like, no. And I'm like, how can you not think? Because I can, in my head, I can't comprehend that somebody wouldn't enjoy something as much as I would. You know what I mean? So sometimes when I have to sit back and think like, man, calm down, but I got to think, hey, you're in my place, but I just haven't been there yet. You know what I mean?
Especially these days, has a bad baseball, and the baseball fan has changed because people need everything in bite size. They don't have the patience for baseball anymore. I think it's hard for us. If people don't get it, baseball, they just don't get it. I kind of just brush past them. Like, if you don't get it, and if you're not even going to try to get it, you're never going to get it. But it is very hard to kind of bridge that gap for people who don't get baseball, and why we love it, and why stadiums in baseball are different, because they're called parks. They're not called stadiums.
Jeremiah Murray says, the years of Piniella and Ozzie in Chicago. Soundbite Central.
It was unbelievable.
Speaking of Soundbite Central, are you ready for Fitz gibberish?
Already?
Let's give the people what they want.
I'm not sure there's a lot of people that want. No.
The people want Fitz gibberish.
All right. Let's give the people what they want.
Tom Picture Fitz.
Hello, my friends. It's another installment of Fitz Gibberish. Yes. A diatribe, a conspiracy, and an island in the middle of unapologetic and sometimes inaccurate sports talk. This one, I have a title for: How to Root for a Terrible White Sox Team. Before they won 17-4, I wrote this. It was all supposed to be different this year. We had a new coach who had a new style. Then La Russa, a.k.a. Dracula's scrotum. What was his style?
Our style of baseball is just, like I said, we're going to prepare every night to kick your ass.
That's Pedro Grifol. It was encouraging to hear a White Sox manager throw around tough guy statements like that. Hell, it was encouraging to have a manager with a pulse. Most times in sports, teams go through slumps or unlucky periods where they have a lot of weird injuries. The law of averages, as we said many times before the season started, usually bounces back and you have your healthy years. Young players are able to read their bodies better and prepare themselves for a long season. We both had them winning over 90 games. I forget what your total was, but I think it was around
93.
Yeah. And I think I had above that. And joked about the odds makers who had them winning in the upper 70s, low 80s this year. Yours truly almost put money where his mouth was. Thank Christ I don't have a sports betting app. Maybe you should get rid of yours. Anyway, not this year, though. The White Sox are the black plague of sports. Probably your best player, Tim Anderson, gets a sprained knee covering third base. He plays shortstop. Your closer, who's one of the best in the league, gets cancer. I'm totally against cancer. Moncada starts the season out red hot, but has back problems from an old WBC injury that we watched right here. He's out for a month. Your number one prospect, top 10 prospect in the league on many charts, left-handed hitting shortstop Colson Montgomery, hasn't played one game in the minors this season. Joe Kelly.
That 1 year, bro, I fucking broke my back pretty much.
He didn't break his back pretty much, but he was out for a couple weeks. How do you break your back? Pretty much, I don't know. I think you either break it or you don't break it. Jake Berger had an OPS of 1,000. You just mentioned it, Combs. He's out with an oblique strain. And yes, we all got the news yesterday that Eloy Jimenez, with an 8-game hitting streak where he had 3 home runs and was batting around 500. Probably the best hitter on your team and an emergency appendectomy. Out for 4 to 6 weeks. Let's be honest, a black plague at this point would be an improvement for this team. I went to a Bears game with my wife in 2018 against the Detroit Lions. The Bears won pretty handedly, had a pretty good team that year. And yeah, Detroit was bad as they usually are. But Cody Parkey hit the crossbar 3 times in that game. 3 times. My takeaway after the game was, who cares if he's the best kicker in the history of football? Get him off the team. Something bad always happens when he's around. I don't think I have to tell you how Cody Parkey's story ends with the Chicago Bears in 2018. The White Sox are like a blackjack dealer at a casino that they call a cooler who comes in when you're on a lucky streak to wipe you out. Pulling 21s out of their hat when they're showing 16, doing 5-card Charlies, which is when it takes 5 cards for a dealer to get to 21. It's happened to me before. Let's face it. It's probably happened to a lot of us. Let's face it. This team had more issues than just injuries. Bob Nightingale, writer for the U.S. Today, who usually wets his lip to give the Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf for a rim job, recently proclaimed the White Sox have the Bermuda Triangle of lousy hitting, awful pitching, and horrendous defense. I kind of don't agree with the horrendous defense, but this is a team that has.
You agree with the rim jobs, though?
I do agree with the rim jobs. Well, he just starts articles that are basically written by Jerry Reinsdorf. But anyway, I digress. He does. He had at the beginning of the year, he had the article saying that Tony La Russa wasn't the problem last year. He was a good manager. Okay. This is a team that has no one backing up the starters. Guys like Lenya Sosa, who came in to back up Timmy. We're never going to cut it. It doesn't look good for player development when you bring in a guy who bats 500 in the minors and can't hit his weight in the MLB. But speaking of Jerry Bear Reinsdorf, an old piece of advice he gave resurfaced. This is ex-Marlins president David Sampson on the Lebitard and Friends podcast. If I can get to it.
You know, Jerry Reinsdorf, when I first got into baseball, I've never told this story before, and I like Jerry very much, and I'm sorry, Jerry, but here it comes. He sat me down. I was 32 years old, just in baseball for my first of 18 years. And he said, you know what? Here's my best advice to you. Finish in second place every single year, because your fans will say, wow, we've got a shot. We're in it. But there's always the carrot left. There's always one more step to take.
Wow. Jerry owns 2 teams in this town who recently went 81-81. The Chicago White Sox, and 40-42, the Chicago Bulls. Weird.
Dangling that carrot.
Yep. He never quite gets the best player, even though he got lucky with the 3rd player in the draft in 1984, Michael Jordan. Oh, we just missed out on Machado and Harper. Yeah, right. Sell the damn team if a championship is not your top priority. You never had any intention on signing either of them. He has said he doesn't remember saying this to Sampson. I can't remember is the I pulled out way early. That's not my baby of lying. I don't know when I wrote that. It was late last night. I should thank him, though, for giving me a new way to root for his teams. Here's George Carlin, my favorite stand-up, explaining his philosophy on stand-up, his new philosophy, that is, on stand-up.
And I found a very liberating position for myself as an artist, and that was I sort of gave up on the human race and gave up on the American dream and culture and nation and decided that I didn't care about the outcome. And that gave me a lot of freedom from a kind of distant platform to be sort of amused, a kind of to watch the whole thing with a combination of wonder and pity, and try to put that into words.
Not caring about the outcome. What do you mean by that?
Not having an emotional stake in whether this experiment with human beings works. I really don't care.
Yeah, Carlin was talking about the human race, but he was liberated by not caring. Liberation sounds pretty good at this point in this miserable season, so I have decided to not care. When Luis Robert stubs his toe and is out for 2 months, I don't care. When Joe Kelly pretty much breaks his back or breaks it all the way, I don't care. Sox fans everywhere until Jerry sells the team and some rich dipshit moves them to Las Vegas because Lord knows they need another team. Stop caring. It is liberating, and if you don't, it will be like doing this.
As soon as I put this hot poker in my ass, I'm going to chop my dick off.
Thanks, George. And thank you, friends, for listening. That is Fitz gibberish. I'll tell you a little something right after that is when we started this podcast, if you asked me, like, are you ever going to not be a rabid, like, ridiculous, like you were a 10 years old Sox fan, I'd be like, no. I don't know if it's the podcast. I don't know if it's this miserable year from Clevenger, the hangover of TLR or anything. I'm actually having fun with this season. And I hope they get even more terrible, to tell you the truth. I'm actually stopped caring. They lost the game last night. They were up 3-1. They lost 5-3. I didn't much care.
See,
I'm having fun with it because I get to make fun of them with you. And
I think Downey Thomas is the best day of my life. Welcome to the club, Fitz, he says.
Yes. You finally turned me, Doubting Thomas.
So I'm calling bullshit, though. I think you care.
Here we go.
I think you care. I think you care so much that at this point for you, it's just laughable, right? Like, because you are such a level-headed fan that hey, look, this team needs so much that I just don't think that they've got a shot. And I mean, I think that's actually the realistic truth. And there was a lot of time where I got that as a Cubs fan. Like, I just knew, like 2012, 2013, I think they won like 50 games in 2012. Like, it was so bad, but like, I didn't like, it wasn't that I didn't care. It was just that I was so used to it and so okay with them being bad that I just didn't care. And now, like, after the regime and after Theo and all of that, like, now I care and I expect better from them. And I've grown up and I've matured as a fan and as now as an analyst and somebody who, actually talks about the game. We deserve better. We really do. I mean, on both sides of town, we deserve better. We deserve more. Sox fans, you guys have been put in a really bad position because a lot of people know how much talent this team has on paper, or how much, I shouldn't even say talent. I should say what their ceiling is with this team, what their ceiling is with their potential of talent on this team. And you guys have been told, hey, this team's going to be good. This team and TLR, for somebody to sit there, like you said, oh, he wasn't the problem. I mean, look, it's like those judges in the fight last night. We all saw the fight. We all know what happened in the first and third round. We know who won this fight, but you said that the other guy won the fight. It's the same thing we saw last season. We saw the 2 times that this guy intentionally walked a guy on a 1-2 count. We saw the product with TLR. We know what happened. So we know that he was the problem. He just wasn't all of the problem. It wasn't just a problem of TLR. It was also a problem of construction of a team. It was a problem of what they put on the field. There's a problem of having 5 first base / DHs in your lineup, trying to play the outfield, trying to do this and that, and then getting hurt while trying to do it. Like, that's been a problem. And so I don't think it's that you don't care. I think it's that you care so much that you're like, you know what? Until you give me something of a semblance of the fact that you're going to try, I'm done right now. That's what it is. I'm just done.
It could be that. And if you don't know a lot about George Carlin, I just thought I always remember that interview, first of all. And then second, I always felt, he did care about the human race, or he wouldn't even have gone up there. I mean, to do stand up is one of the harder jobs and art forms out there.
Did you see Jeremiah Murray's comment?
Something you'll never hear a man say: "Stop sucking my dick, or I'm calling the police." If you want to look up that bit by George Carlin, it's fantastic. I don't think he had that on there.
I love George Carlin. He's my favorite comic of all time too. Mostly because he reminds me of my grandfather.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very similar. Their tone, their demeanor, and the way they thought about the world. Very, very similar. So I've always been a big George Carlin fan. Watched a lot of his stuff. Hippy Dippy Weatherman. Like,
yeah, it was part of the that Jammin' stand up in 1992 that he actually did live.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. He was 55 and it's probably one of the best stand-up performances ever. And but was counterculture, was definitely within the 60s, had the long hair, always had the long hair on him. He was actually business-like for a while, wanted to be an actor, all that, but then once he started like giving up on that, went to a lot of colleges, believe it or not, and did it stand-up, and then just sort of that counterculture thing didn't work, so he sort of just kind of gave up. Now, did he not care anymore about the human race? I don't think so, but maybe you are right, where he just went so far in one direction. It was just like, fuck it. And I think it's more fun than fucking living and dying every game, especially when you have an owner that, we've talked about this before, that thrives on mediocrity. Why not make a mediocre team that maybe wins a championship? There's definitely not a 100% effort going on in that building. Especially when you still have Rick Hahn there, you still have Kenny Williams there, who haven't really done a lot. I mean, that Berto said it on that call last year. They haven't done a lot. I actually really like Rick Hahn. I like a lot of the moves he's made, but if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's like the Cody Parkey thing.
Don't you think that it's time for? Hasn't Rick Hahn done enough, and even Kenny, where it's like, they keep saying the right thing, but they never actually do what they say they're going to do? Or is that just all because they want to do one thing and the guy who signs their paycheck says, no, you're doing this instead?
Well, that obviously happened. I mean, he wanted AJ Hinch. Rick Hahn did. It was black and white at that point. And all of a sudden he goes around Rick and hires TLR. I mean, you basically did waste 2 seasons. You did.
Yeah.
The players didn't like it. You got every player saying that they weren't even prepared for games. You got Lance Lynn saying we weren't preparing basically for 2 years. He didn't say that verbatim, but he said we're preparing differently now. We're preparing more now. We have to get used to it. And it's just like, what?
Yeah. It's so mad. Like, look, and I'm a Cubs fan, and I'm mad about the way that the White Sox are handled.
No, I see it. Yeah.
Like, I'm mad about the fact that they don't put a viable product, and they want you to believe that they're trying to. And that drives me nuts. Like, they talked about it on The Score all week this week. I was listening to interview after interview, clip after clip from The Score. And I mean, they are running at the Chicago White Sox front office right now. They are running at ownership, and they are right. Like, the fans are screaming in the stands for you to sell the team.
Yep.
It is time for you to sell this team. It is time for you to go away. It is time for you to give this team to however you got to do it, whether you find a guy like Tom Ricketts, who is a longtime fan of the team, who can afford to be the owner of the team, if you want to, find an investment, group, a collaboration of wealthy investors to go and buy this, you need to find something. You need to find somebody that is willing to put a product on the field. And I know you keep saying that somebody's going to come in and move this team out of the South Side. I don't think that. I just don't see that happening. I really don't. I mean, if they move them out of the South Side, I think they'll stay in Illinois. They might become like the Kankakee White Sox or the Peoria White Sox or something. The Arlington Heights White Sox and share a stadium with the Chicago Bears, and move into that district.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, unless you get up an owner or somebody who has a plan for the team, plan to move the stadium, that would definitely happen. And a plan for the team when they buy it, or if there's something contingent where he says, look, are you going to keep it in the neighborhood? I don't even know if that even matters to Jerry. He threatened to leave. That's how he got the Sweetheart Stadium deal he did with Governor Thompson at the time. He got the Sweetheart deal because he said he was going to leave. So I don't even know how much he cares whether it's still
right?
here. But if you bought a team, come on, Combs. If you bought a team, it's not just national news, the South Side of Chicago. It's world renowned. People know in fucking Germany what's going on in the South Side of Chicago. Like, it's a damn.
It's not going to get any better,
and it's not going to get any better. It's going to get way worse, and it's been bad our entire lives.
Right.
And nothing. Well, maybe they've tried everything. I don't think they have, but that's what's happening. Why would you keep the team here? Why?
Yeah, I mean, they do have a great stadium. I mean, they really do. I mean, it's a beautiful ballpark.
They've turned it into a great stadium. They have.
And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that they're going to. I don't know if they would move the team. I really don't. Maybe they would. Maybe they wouldn't. I just, for my friends who are Sox fans, for people that I know, and for the city of Chicago, I mean, we just deserve to have a better product on the field. We deserve to have, something more to cheer about. We deserve to have, at least not be lied to. At least when Theo came in with the Cubs and Tom Ricketts bought the Cubs, they told, hey, look, man, we're going to suck for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But after that, we promise we're going to be good. And they were. I mean, there was they went to 4 straight NLCSs or 3 straight NLCSs. They went to the playoffs 6 years in a row. It's just something that normally doesn't happen. But they found a way, and they were honest with their fan base. And that's what I think brought back a lot of the true Chicago Cubs fans into being Chicago Cubs fans. You know what I mean? Like it was just.
I'd only have one more caveat. That team should have won more than one World Series.
I agree. I agree. They did a terrible job after winning the World Series of filling holes, the same way the White Sox have. They've rested on their laurels, and they're not trying to replace players that need to be replaced.
Yeah, they overpriced the talent that they had.
Yeah, they just haven't built the depth.
Yeah, that too, and they they thought more of what they had than what they were. I mean, Kyle Schwarber is good in his role in Philadelphia, and yes, he's gotten better later in his career, but they thought he was much more than he was.
Look, let me address the elephant in the room. Okay, much like Virginia McCaskey, Jerry Reinsdorf needs to die. Jerry Reinsdorf needs to die in order for this team to get better. And that's what needs to happen. I mean, it's just like the Blackhawks. When Bill Wirtz was the owner, and stupid decision after stupid decision, not showing, which I still don't understand the ideology of, if you don't show home games on TV, they'll come to the stadium to see.
Oh, wow.
I just don't understand the mentality. But but the day he died, the Chicago franchise changed for the better. His son took over. They drafted Patrick Kane, they drafted Jonathan Taves, They went out and made the moves that they needed to make to be relevant again, to be a charter franchise in the league, which they were. They are an original
Seemed
16.
like the right GM. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
helped, even though Gary Bettman tries all he can do to fuck up hockey. But they really, they really helped hockey's popularity there. And yeah, I mean that is one of the most glaring, not just in Chicago history, but in hockey history, I guess, of an owner changing hands and really just changing the entire culture, the entire team, until they raped one of their players. But anyway, moving on. It did for, they won 3 champions. That was a dynasty for sure. That was a for sure dynasty. You got them and the Bulls. And yeah, you don't really have a lot in between. I mean, you could say what you want about the Cubs, and yes, they did have a pretty good team, and they did make it to the playoffs a lot, but that should have probably been a dynasty. I even think, and we can argue about it, the 05 Sox should have been a dynasty. They definitely had the pitching to be one.
The early 90s White Sox should have been a dynasty.
Oh, absolutely should have.
That team in 92, 93, 94, 95, I mean,
ridiculous.
Those were some great baseball teams.
Tim Raines, Frank Thomas, Robin Ventura, Wilson Alvarez, Blackjack McDowell, who did tweet about that quote that I shared from the ex-president of the Marlins. He said, like, I've heard Jerry Reinsdorf say that. Maybe we can poke the bear over there, get Blackjack McDowell on. That'd be great. I think he's the last White Sox pitcher to win a Cy Young.
But yeah, I mean, they had Bo Jackson a couple of those years too. I mean, they had some solid ball players.
You could still hit and play right.
Albert Bell, they've had some really good. I just, it's maddening. There's no other way to describe it as a Chicago sports fan. It's infuriating. And there's really, and the worst part, there's nothing you can do about it.
No,
it's like when your kids are sick, you feel like shit, but there's nothing you can do about it.
No, yeah.
And as much as you want to take the pain away, you just can't. And it's the same thing with Chicago. Look, you and I compete. We would have the Cubs and White Sox in the World Series every single year.
Yeah.
If we were owners, you know what I mean? Like, if we had that money to own a team, we would be telling Rick Hahn, whatever you got to do, go ahead and do it.
Both sides of town talk about their balance sheets.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
like Rick, it's the losses are biblical.
Yeah,
are you kidding me? You bought the team for $900 million. It's
you think he regrets that quote every day?
Oh, he's got to.
Yeah,
you're telling me you don't have the money? Your team quadrupled in price in like 5 years. Like,
right?
What are you worried about, dude?
Right.
Your teams go up by hundreds of. The Sox were in Forbes magazine were worth $1.9 billion last year. They're worth $2.1 billion now. If they were sold, like they might not sell it for that. They might sell it for less, but still, they've gone up by $200 million. Jerry's out there saying they lost $25 million. There's no way. I mean, Jeremiah said it with that stadium deal. There's no way they lost that money. And the Cubs are losing money. They just opened up the Marquee Network that year, and he's talking about them losing money. They're getting all the money they can.
The Chicago Cubs revenue in 2022 was $425 million. That's just the revenue in the stadium.
Are we sure that's even? Yeah, exactly. That's not even the TV revenue. They don't have to tell us the real numbers. They're private. They're not a public company. They do not have to tell us the real numbers.
Right. Yeah. They're not a for profit or whatever. All the ones that have to give you their sheets and stuff. But that's what I'm saying. Like these teams that say they cry poor in Chicago. Look, Wrigley Field is packed every single damn day. Every single they did a second 7th inning stretch today because they went into the 14th inning, right? A second 7th inning stretch, and there were so many people still there. A lot of people had left their seats because in the shade, I heard it had dropped like something like 13 degrees or something. So they show a camera shot outside where everybody is on Gallagher Way in the field. There's probably about 2,000 people in Gallagher Way watching on the screen in the sun, like, and they're singing along with it. Like,
and let's face it, they're watching what is. I mean, and I think they're going in the right direction, but they're watching what is a mediocre team. I mean,
Right, you're watching a 500 baseball team.
You got guys coming up. Matt Mervis, I think, is going to be a really good player, a really good piece. But you got guys coming up. It's not a team like that's about to win a championship.
And that's another
you
thing.
Do have that fans, and even the Sox. Like we could joke about their fan attendance. It's been over 2 million for 4 years straight. I mean, not counting COVID. Not counting the COVID year, but still over 2 million, you're making money. There's no way over 2 million in attendance. I think the Cubs get 3 million a year, but I mean, come on, they're not the Oakland A's.
Right. And that's the other thing that I'm thinking of as a Cubs fan, right? We talk about being a level-headed fan. I know we're not going to win a World Series this year. I know we're not as good as the Philadelphia Phillies, New York Mets, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Atlanta Braves. I know that. So why are we messing around with Trey Mancini? Why are we, messing around with, Cody Bellinger? And I look, Cody Bellinger has been great through the first part of the season. He's had a really good start. I like Cody Bellinger a lot,
but he's not the future.
He's not Pete Crow Armstrong.
Nope.
He's not Brennan Davis. He's not Matt Mervis. He's not. These are the guys where
950 OPS in the minor.
Yeah.
You got to bring that guy up on a team that. Come on, are they? I mean,
I would be more excited about this team being scrappy as they are, and they are a scrappy team. Yeah. Look, they came back and won a game yesterday. They came back again today after being shut down for 8 innings by one of the best pitchers in baseball, Sandy Alcantara, who was going for a complete game in the 9th inning, and the Cubs battle back and score 2 runs. Then they're down 3-2 in the 10th. They battle back and score another run. Then they're down 4-3 in the 12th. They battle back and they score again. Right? That's just what they do. The Cubs battle. But I would be more excited about watching Pete Crow Armstrong come up in the bottom of the 14th inning to try to win a game than Cody Bellinger. I was hoping for his sake that Matt Mervis, who had a chance to win it in the 12th inning, would have won it there. I thought, Matt Mervis, that would have been a perfect story for him. It comes up, gets called up, walk off base hit in the 12th inning with runners on second and third. Like, those are the things that I am more excited about seeing than watching Cody Bellinger, than watching this team go 500, than watching this team rake against teams like the Dodgers and the Padres and the Braves and all these teams that I mentioned they're not as good at, and then go and lose 6 out of 7 to the Miami Marlins and Washington Nationals. Right? That's what this team is, though. This team is a 500 ball club. So realistically, let's see what else is out there. And then you go in the 13th inning, and we have, the Cubs go and they tie the game 4-4. You have Ian Happ on first base, and you don't try to steal second to get the winning run on second. What are you doing? The guy has above average speed. Why is Ian Happ not trying to steal second to get into scoring position? Because at this point, like I said, you're a 500 team, so take risks.
Yeah.
Take chances. This is I really have a soft spot in my heart for anybody on this 2016 team, and that includes David Ross. I'm not so sure he can manage a Major League Baseball club.
Maybe he's not supposed to be. I mean, Jed Hoyer is the kind of guy that's gonna hire somebody who's just gonna get you there, like a Ricky Renteria, and then he's gonna get the coach. Maybe not a Madden. I know they kind of parted ways,
right,
ceremoniously, but maybe that's what he's thinking. We'll get the real manager once we get close. We don't.
Well, the players love David Ross, and I get all that, but. These are the things that I'm watching when I'm watching a guy with above average speed in Ian Happ, or even earlier in like the 11th inning, I was saying the same thing because you had Nico Horner on first base. Why are you not running with him? Why are you not putting him in a position where a base hit wins the ball game? He's the fastest damn guy on the team. Why are you not making this call? Why am I sitting here screaming from my damn recliner? Why run?
Good organizations and good teams do the little things right. Like, I'll even take another team, the Twins, who never have a lot of money ever. have a lot of money. They do the little things right. They've always beat up on the Sox, not always beat up on the Sox, but they beat up on the Sox. And when they do those little things right. The
Yeah.
very little things right. Whether it's hitting a cutoff man, whether it's, knowing the way a guy wants to be pitched and understanding the way what pitches the guy's looking for to not pitch those pitches.
Yeah.
Or if you do pitch those pitches, maybe you're way inside instead of right there. I mean, they just do all the little things right. And that comes from scouting. That comes from even innovating, like the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, having less guys, see a lineup for a third time because they know that ERA goes up. So then they do things. They try new things because one, they have to, but two, because they're trying to innovate.
I want to touch on this. Jeremiah says Morel is destroying in the minors, and Morel will continue to destroy in the minors. He's not a major league ball player. He's not. He is a guy who will always do well in the minors, and then he'll come up to the majors and he'll be a 240 hitter. He's just not. He's one of those guys that you look at in college for football, and you're like, yeah, his game just isn't going to translate. He's a great college player, but he's just not going to translate into the pros. Like that. That's what Chris Morel is. And I look to your point as far as oh, God, I lost my train of thought.
Maybe? That's when I start pointing at player development. When guys like Lania Soto, Romy Gonzalez had almost 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. He comes up, he bats 130. Lania Sosa bats 180. And he's hitting home runs. He's batting like 480 in the minors.
And that's a part of developing, moving along with the game, progressing with the game, right? Because they showed a stat on the Cubs game today where in 1982 there were 743 complete games in the major leagues that year. In 2002 there was 243 complete games in the major leagues. In 2022 there were 36 complete games in the major leagues. The game is evolving. It's not the same. Pitchers you're never going to see a Cy Young again. You're never, and by Cy Young, I mean the actual pitcher, the guy who had 749 complete games.
Yeah, he won 500 and what?
512.
512.
Yeah,
that's the one where people are like, oh, that DiMaggio, that record, 56 games in a row hit streak, that's going to be beat one day. The it's not unbeatable. They always say that's unbeatable. The unbeatable is 512 wins. It's never going to happen because they know more about it. It's the same way where everybody has 3 running backs in the NFL now. They know about sports science, man. That's where it happens. And that's why, that's what I'm always talking about, that the Sox, and I believe the Cubs, you can argue with me about it, are behind on that. They wait for other people to innovate and then they carbon copy it instead of innovating and being ahead of it for 2 or 3 years or 2 or 3 drafts or picking up that free agent. They're just not good at that. They're always behind the 8 ball. They always seem to be behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I do think that they're behind the 8 ball on that. I do think that out of the 2 teams, though, and you might disagree with me on this, or maybe you do agree with me on this, knowing you, I think the Cubs are probably closer to turning that curve. I think the Cubs are probably closer because the Cubs have at least done a good job of creating depth within their organization. I know who the next Cubs up and coming star is. I know who's coming up for them. I know what I'm looking forward to. I don't know who's going to replace Tim Anderson at shortstop. Do you?
It's supposed to be Colson Montgomery, but he can't even fucking play, dude. He hasn't played a game yet. There was actually some rumblings that he might get into major. He might get into a game this year. He might fill in. Maybe he's the next guy to come up to relieve Elvis Andrews, and he plays second base. Maybe he slots in at third. Maybe Makata's. If Makata goes, but
maybe he takes over for Tim Anderson when he goes to Pittsburgh at the trade deadline.
Yeah, maybe, but he's not even playing. No, I would put the fucking Oakland A's ahead of the Sox.
Why is he not playing? Is he hurt?
Yeah, he's hurt. Well,
go figure.
He played 5. He had 5 at bats in spring training, and then they sat him down. I forgot what his injury was, but this is what happens to everybody. And Jeremiah, I think he even had a comment on it where he said like the Sox and the Yankees are the only 2 teams where they decide when a guy comes back. Well, Colson Montgomery gets hurt. I forgot what he hurt, and then all of a sudden his back is injured, and now he hasn't played. It's now what, May 7th, 8th,
Yeah.
the 8th.
7th.
Yeah, it's the 7th. And still he hasn't played in the minors at all. This is a guy who's trying to develop, and every player has been that way. Luis Robert development. Now it wasn't his fault, but his rookie year was the 60-game season, which is really sucks. But his development from being hurt. Eloy Jimenez, we've already talked about. Now is even further development. I mean, I don't even know if the guy's played 2 full seasons yet. Eloy Jimenez. This is his 4th year in the league. Like it's,
yeah, I know. What we're coming up against it here. We've talked about the White Sox and how they can't stay healthy. We've talked about how Jerry Reinsdorf needs to die, much like Virginia.
We'll do more Cubs talk next week again.
Yeah, we got into some Cubs talk. I mean, the Cubs are not the focus right now in Chicago, right? Because they're doing exactly what we expected them to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's no the White Sox right now are leading the headlines. And I asked you earlier in the week if we could do a full show on the White Sox. And I truly meant that because there's just so much to talk about with this team. And it's
definitely interesting.
Yeah, and the way the score was just going off of, I mean, the clips were absolutely hilarious. The conversations that they were having and the things that guys like, Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams were talking about. Like it just in the way that they're talking, it's almost like you wonder who they're trying to convince with some of the things they're saying, themselves or us.
Yeah, it's Kenny Williams came out in their 24th, 25th game and said, "Oh yeah, I'm not doing good right now, but we still got time." It's like it doesn't even look good. Like this isn't a team where a couple guys got hurt, and this did happen, but it doesn't even look good if those guys come back. Like Yohan Moncada is going to come back and lead the team. Are you kidding me?
Doesn't he always do that though, Kenny Williams? Isn't he always that guy that jumps on the grenades like we need to be better than this. We're needed. Then do something, Kenny. It's like that meme that you see with the little stick drawing with the guy with the stick and he's poking at something. And he says, "Do something, come on, like that. Do something about this damn team."
Yeah, I mean, you needed to have a right fielder this year and a second baseman, a real right fielder and a real, whether it was Trevor Story, whether it was Michael Conforto, Oscar Colas looks like he could be a solid player. I don't know.
Conforto's batting like 180 right now.
Well, that could have been bad too.
He would have fit right into this White Sox team.
He would have slid right in there. But giving Elvis Andrus, he should be your backup utility player. He shouldn't be starting at second base. And Oscar Colas, if you're a championship team, you don't have your right fielder be a rookie. I mean, and it's another guy who batted 300, had 25, 30 home runs, and comes up batting 200. Like
I just looked it up because I thought I saw it earlier because I had him for a little bit on my fantasy. Michael Conforto is also on the 10-day DL, so he really would have fit into this White Sox team.
Great here. Did the appendix blow up? Did anything else happen to him?
That 1 year, bro, I fucking broke my back pretty much.
Did he pretty much break his back?
Yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad. And so I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do with the White Sox. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to them over the next couple of weeks. You're going to have, with the schedule coming up, like they might get fans excited again. And I'm just going to warn you now, White Sox fans. You're like you're like the one friend that you have who constantly has boyfriends that cheat on her or hit her, and they keep going back to them and keep going back to them, and then like
be different.
and then after a little while, you're just like, you know what, it's your fault too. So if you get excited about this White Sox team again this year, if you get excited about them again, you deserve the heartbreak you're going to get afterwards, because they're going to play well against bad teams. They will. But they're not going to play very well against the really good teams, because they're just not a really good team. And so I just want to caution White Sox fans ahead of time. And people are probably looking at me, are you saying this with a Cubs hat on? Go figure. No, I'm being realistic. And do not get excited about this, and make them prove to you that you have a reason to get excited. Wait till September, wait till October. Or then maybe you can get a little excited.
Or you're going to do this to yourself.
As soon as I put this hot poker in my ass, I'm going to chop my dick off.
And that, my friends, is Windy City Sports Talk. We'll see you next week.